Hi everyone, welcome to a special holiday edition of tnSportsChat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. We are recording this the day before Thanksgiving, so I think everyone's kind of in the holiday spirit, or everyone that's left in the office is in a little bit of a holiday spirit.
Yeah, they're going out quickly, one by one.
But we are here.
We're here to whet their appetite a little bit for the winter sports season. We're going to talk a little bit about who we have coming back: boys, girls, basketball, wrestling, and just talk a little bit about what to expect.
Yeah, and there is a lot on the boys, girls basketball front, the wrestling front as well. But we'll dive right into it with basketball and just kind of looking at the landscape of what we have coming back. I know you had mentioned it previously, but we have a pretty solid amount of key returning players coming back this year.
Yeah, we went back and looked at last year's first team Times News All-Star teams, and it was a 7-man first team last year, and 5 of those players were underclassmen. They're all going to be coming back this year.
Yeah, I think, didn't we even expand it last year? Because we had so many really strong performers
Exactly.
that throughout the area last year. So it was a great area. A great season for area players. I guess key returning player of the year, Marion's Tyler Fritz is coming back, and I mean he blossomed last year. Did so much for the Colts, leading them to a district semifinal appearance.
Averaged almost 24 points a game, which was the most in the Times News area in about 15, 20 years, maybe longer even, than anybody had averaged that many points a game. That was last year. As a sophomore, he did that. His freshman year, Tyler averaged double figures. I can't remember what the number was, but like you said, he just kind of blew up last year, and Marion coach Sean Patton is hoping to see even more improvement from him this year.
Yeah, I know he really kind of shot up last year, grew a lot, and obviously they're just, again, looking for continued growth out of him this season on the court. Rennie Figueroa of Panther Valley helped the Panthers get to a district championship game last year, into the state playoffs. He was definitely a catalyst and a spark plug for that team last year.
Averaged 18.6 points per game, was also the point guard, so led the team in assists, was a strong defender, and had some big games in big situations. I know he had the school record, 44 points in the regular season victory over Marion that clinched the Division III title for Panther Valley. So he's going to be a senior this year.
Yeah, he had some monster games. He had some huge games in big time spots, and just
that's kind of what you look for from your team leaders. So Reenie's going to be a senior. We also had 3 other first team selections last year, boys, that are all going to also be seniors. We had Brandon Hess of Northern Lehigh, Nate Doherty of Palmerton, and Sam Yadish of Northwestern. All 3 Colonial League teams. All of them first, second team Colonial League All-Stars last year, and all had helped their team have successful years.
All qualified for districts. So obviously those are guys that are kind of cornerstones, certainly big pieces of kind of the foundation for what those programs have already got in place. So
and gives all 3 of those teams. Hess averaged over 17 points a game, Doherty a little over 16, and Yadish over 15. They all have a couple other pieces coming back, and you mentioned they all made district last year, and I think all are looking for even more improvement this year.
Yeah, instead of kind of getting into that first round or quarterfinal type game, maybe get in there, get a win, and kind of see what happens in that second season. Also lost, obviously, some talent on the boys' side as well from that all-star team with Panther Valley's Tristan Blasco, Tamaqua's Thad Zuber, a couple of players that have graduated, but they helped both of their teams tremendously last season.
Right, and just mentioning Tamaqua, with Thad Zuber graduating, the Raiders still have a lot coming back.
Oh yeah,
and they made it to the state playoffs last year, won the consolation game against Wilson. 4A, made it to the state playoffs. They have a lot coming back. Coach Jim Barron has high expectations coming into this
Absolutely,
season.
And the Raiders enjoyed a great football season, and a lot of those guys will be back on the court for basketball. So certainly a lot of, I think, probably enthusiasm and optimism there in Tamaqua. On the girls' side, Weatherly girls only area team last year to win a district championship. The Wreckers won the Class 1A title, had a really, really great season, and it was kind of spearheaded by Emily Zoshin,
Right.
who was really phenomenal.
And Emily's finally a senior this year. It seems like she's
Yeah.
been playing it about 10 years at Weatherly.
Yeah.
But she's over 1,000 points for her career, averaged 18.5 points a game last year. And it was a really good story, the Weatherly story last year, because it had been 20 some years,
Long time, yeah.
since they'd won a district title, and I covered that district title clinching win, and the whole community, the support system around the school was really excited about that.
Yeah, so obviously Emily comes back. They have that sort of core. They have some core players there still, obviously from that district championship game. So they're going to want to try to go and repeat and make it that it wasn't just sort of a one and done.
Right.
So definitely that they're going to be motivated. We had a lot of other area teams that enjoyed a great deal of success last season. Tamaqua girls made it to the semifinals in Class 4A, and Emma Kosinski obviously had another really, really strong season.
Yeah, made our all-star first team all-star team as a sophomore a year ago, so she's back as a junior. She averaged over 18 points a game, and it's another team that has a really solid foundation coming back around her and is looking for even better things this year, I would think.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where head coach Erica Davis obviously knows kind of what she has. They lose Kirsten Jones, who was huge for them in so many aspects. Oh, yeah.
Great defender.
Yeah, so she was obviously really big for them, but having Emma is going to be gigantic for that program. And then you look at Jada Sager at Northern Lehigh. I mean, she was... again, we talked about Emily kind of being a bit of a spark plug, but she did just as much or, that much and more, obviously, for the Bulldogs last season.
Yeah, she averaged over 18 points a game. She'll be a senior this year. The team was only 7-15 last year. It kind of went as Jada went. If they can get a little help around her, she's a year older now, and they could actually make a little more noise this year. It's been like a gradual improvement. I think they won 2 or 3 games the year before, up to 7 last year, and I'm thinking they were looking for like a district playoff berth this year.
Yeah, and just kind of thinking obviously too about some of the losses that we have as well. Just kind of throwing in there. Obviously, we lose Player of the Year Skyland Faust, who was huge for Lehigh last year and making it into districts, and we use Kaylee Kovac, who enjoyed a remarkable 4 years. Unfortunately, she suffered an ACL injury last season and wasn't able to finish the year. Obviously healthy. I know she got in there at the end, in the last game or so, but some players that enjoyed really, really remarkable careers that have since moved on.
Yeah, they were our players of the year the last 2 years. Kayla, when she was a sophomore and a junior, and Sky last year as a senior. They were both first team members. Another first team member we had last year who is back is Emily Schott of Marion. Schott's only a junior, so she made the team as a sophomore last year, averaged 12.5 points a game. It's a Philly team that's used to having lots of postseason success.
Yeah.
I think last year they got knocked off in the semis.
Yes, but yeah, they made it to the semis last year. But we talked about this, I think, even last winter about how many years in a row they've made districts under head coach Paul Bruto.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
well, every year the Bruto's been coach,
yeah.
And I think that the back into the 70s, early 1970s as a program, they made it incredible, and not just making it. A lot of those years, especially under Paul, they've been either district champs or state qualifiers or both, and so they're looking to continue that success.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we have a little bit on the boys and the girls front. We have a couple of new head coaches. We have Bobby Hahn, who takes over the Pleasant Valley boys basketball program, and we have Dan Beck, who steps in for the Palmerton girls. So
right. Very, very little movement as far as the coaches.
Yeah.
Only 2 of the 20 basketball coaches. That's not a lot, but I'm sure both those coaches want to step in and keep their programs headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and we'll learn more about each program, obviously, in the coming weeks or so, and once our preview stories kind of get finalized and we get everything wrapped up, talking to coaches, some players, hopefully. So we'll have more to come on that front in the next week or two. but also kind of time to dive into some wrestling. We had a great year last year. You think about with Caleb Clymer leaving Hershey as a state champion. Now he's at Lock Haven, Division I program. The Tigers were phenomenal last year. I mean, you look back and they had 4 wrestlers in the state tournament, 7 regional qualifiers, the most of any school in the area, and head coach Jim Mole was District 11 Class 2A Coach of the Year. So
yeah, with all that success, a lot of the other wrestlers and wrestling teams in the area flew a little under the radar, just because when you have a state champ and you have all those awards that Northwestern won and how far the team went, that it's hard to even remember who else was good last year. But you do know, Patrick.
Hopefully. But we do have a lot of really, really strong returners back. Just kind of thinking about Palmerton's Lucas Chrisman, who was a district runner-up. He is back. He was a state qualifier for the first time last year. He is back as a senior. We have Tamaqua's Bronson Strauss. He was here's a kid that was a District 11 junior high champion, so he's kind of been ticketed, I think, maybe, sort of for years here of kind of looking for big things out of Bronson. And he was a Schuylkill League champ last year, district runner-up, 6th at regionals. He went to states for the first time. Then you have Jim Thorpe's Ethan Mordaunt, who will be a senior this year. I mean, there's another kid that has just kind of gotten better and better and better. District runner-up, he was 3rd regionals, and he advanced to states for the first time. And then you have Garrett Beckham, a kid that was at Panther Valley. Now he's at Jim Thorpe, kind of hoping that Derek does come out and wrestle at Jim Thorpe. Obviously, he had a phenomenal run at Panther Valley, made it to Hershey for the first time. So
coming off a great football season for Jim Thorpe.
So that's a kid that obviously you're kind of hoping comes back. And then we had some other underclassmen too. We had Lehighton's Chris Whiteman. We had Northwestern's Harrison Bernard. We had a bunch of kids that made it to regionals, maybe didn't get to states, but were kind of on the doorstep last year and looked like they should be primed to break through this season.
And all hoping to get somewhat the success that Caleb had last year at Northwestern. It's a lofty goal, but I'm sure everybody you just mentioned probably has that goal set right now.
Yeah, and you look at how close some of these kids got last year, and you think about, kind of for the first time, maybe they made it out to states, or maybe for the first time they were in a district championship type of match. They thrived and excelled all season, and now they kind of have that experience of getting through a district tournament as kind of the favorite, and I think maybe getting into regionals as sort of somebody that has a target on their back.
And you mentioned 3 or 4 returnees who were out at Hershey. That's something else that it takes a little getting used to. That first trip out there, you kind of can get wowed by the crowd and the arena.
And it's bang, bang, bang.
And everything going on at one time. So they'll be a little more prepared for their trip to Hershey if they can get back there.
Yeah, so there are a lot of kids that definitely have a lot to build on. Certainly something that I'm obviously looking forward to. So last year, again, we had a really, really great season, and just kind of hoping to build off of that this year, and have even more success both individually and as teams. So that'll, again, like basketball, that'll kind of be here before you know it.
We're
right
2 weeks away.
Yeah.
2 weeks from Friday that the seasons will be opening, December 7th. And and we'll have the Times News, we mentioned this last week, but preview stories for the wrestling and the girls and boys basketball, and also Tamaqua Swimming, which is our only local swimming program. They are going to be running in our paper the week of December 3rd through the 7th.
Yeah, and obviously we have Danny Berlitz back, Marion swimmer, who was phenomenal last year.
Swims independently.
Yeah.
Double state gold medalist last year, Times News Swimmer of the Year the last couple of years, and Division I signee. Yeah, so big things are expected from Dan this year.
Yeah, so that'll, again, all be here before you know it. So that's just a little taste, I guess, for now, but we'll have more in the coming weeks once we kind of get everything in place.
We're hoping next week to be back and do a little recap of the football season, a little bit of best games, best performances, things like that. So that's the plan right now.
We have a lot. We certainly have a lot to talk about. We have, some outstanding team performances, individual performances. There's certainly a lot to dive into on that front for sure.
Yeah.
So that could be could be coming, hopefully will be coming next week. But for now, I think that's all we have for this week. So for Emmett McCall, I'm Patrick Matsinko. Thank you again for tuning in to TN Sports Chat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network, and happy Thanksgiving.